Well, the first one is one that we talked about all of last offseason and one that we thought was going to get fired. Talking about Sam Pittman in Arkansas.
Yeah.
He's an easy pick, but he's also one that can end up saving himself and giving himself more time. They ended up pulling out a couple of nice wins in order for him to be given enough grace to try this out for one more year. The offense improved. Taylor Green showed us a lot of positive signs that maybe he takes a step forward and this offense becomes even more potent. But we got to pay attention to the fact that this Sam Pittman-led Arkansas team has been nothing but mediocre. I don't know what Arkansas's plans and desires are as an athletic department. You would think by going and getting John Calipari that they would have the intent and the desire to at least be in the conversation as a top 5 team in the SEC. They were 4-8 in 2023, and they were 7-6 in 2024. Their recruiting has left a lot to be desired. 32nd in recruiting in 2023, 29th in 2024 per On3's industry rankings.
Where were they this year? Do you know?
29th. So 2024.
Oh,
as in they going into
20. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. The 2025 class would be this one, but I get what you.
Yeah.
My bad. I see what you're saying.
Well, that was all. That's my main point here with this is that there has not been enough success for how long he's been there. I think for him by the end of this year, and this roster is not one that I would believe is suddenly going to be back in that 9-win conversation.
I'm not going to go there. I do think that their outright ceiling could get him there, and this is why. Because I do think with Bobby Petrino, second year with Taylor Green, when you have a quarterback that can move like that, does he get better as a passer? I'm not going to say that they can't win 9 games, okay? I'm not going to say they can't surprise some people because we thought the same about our, South Carolina going into the season. But when we see what happens with a true dual threat type of quarterback, when you have some weapons around you that can make some things happen here, okay? I'm not going to go there. I think it would be their ceiling, though, right? Like I think it's their outright ceiling on where they would go. Here's the thing with Sam Pittman, and I think Arkansas fans, I don't know how they're going to feel about this, but here's the just reality of the situation. Sam Pittman is 30-31 in his 5 seasons at Arkansas. He's 3-0 in bowl games, which once he's gotten there and he's had winning seasons, he's done fine there, right? I mean, what is the ceiling of where Arkansas, where we expect them to be versus where they could be? You showed the country and the world that you had enough money that even though Calipari has started off slow, that you're going to build things through basketball. You've shown through baseball, when NIL has become a thing, that you love that sport, that you're going to put money, resources towards it. Why aren't you doing that in the biggest thing? I do think a couple of things are happening here. Number one, I don't think Sam Pittman has the backing like that, and people are waiting for that to happen, and maybe when they do make the move, Arkansas does put the money in the forefront into football. But, Joe, why are I think Hunter Yurachek, who's their AD, makes this hire and doesn't want to cut the guy that he hired, right? He doesn't want to let go of the guy that he brought in. But you do have a very good structure of money that you can do something and build something at Arkansas. The thing about me is that I think that for Arkansas fans, they've been very lenient. I mean, if we're just being honest, from a sports perspective, in the big 3 to them, football, basketball, baseball, everything's been disappointing. That falls on your AD. That falls on everybody that's involved there. Where does I remember the days of Darren McFadden, Joe. Like I see a comment in there of LSU was the only 2-loss team that won a national championship. You want to know one of the losses that they had? Darren McFadden, Peyton Hillis, and the boys, right? Yeah. That's when Arkansas football was at their ceiling. By the way, Bobby Petrino was the head coach there in 2011 when LSU would go back. So I think of Arkansas and the things that they can do. Joe, they can't even lock down the number 1 player in their state and Carius Kern. You have a team like LSU that goes in there and just takes whatever they want, whenever they want, and no one's going to do anything about it. They got to get serious as an administration about wanting to win football games. I don't feel as if that they are serious. I've told you this. I told you this last offseason when I didn't know if he would get fired. I'm going to say it again. When people are good people, like Sam Pittman's a good dude. You would go to the bar and have a beer with Sam Pittman. I warned everybody that would listen to the show about what would happen with Sam Pittman, and people looked at me like I was crazy. Good dudes don't get fired if they're borderline. They get the extension. They get the other year. This is it, though. You got to make a firm decision of where – Joe, especially this. Think about this. Especially now when you're in a 12-team playoff. No one's expecting you to go and be a team that's in the Final Four. No one. But, Joe, we look at a team like South Carolina, Ole Miss, hypothetically in the SEC, who was on the door scratching like saying, hey, we deserve to be in here. You can be that. That's what you should strive to be. They're not doing that. And so here's the other thing that I'd say about Arkansas that I know Arkansas fans will put in the comments. Here's one thing that I'll give them a little bit of grace on. Joe, every single year they have the toughest schedule in the SEC when it's at the end of the year. We don't talk about it in the preseason, right? We never talk about Arkansas having a gauntlet, ever. Like the national media, no one talks about it being a gauntlet. At the end of the year, they're always in the top 5 in strength of schedule. And I look at that and say, now when it would change over, not this upcoming year, but the year after, and it gets a little bit lighter, do you make a move then? Is it a strategic play by them was what I would ask. But in reference to what Arkansas could be, should be, and what they will be are two completely different things. He's 30-31, Joe, in 61 games. I mean, like, come on now.
No, and this isn't a Vanderbilt type school that they have some.
He did it at Vanderbilt, put him in the Hall of Fame.
Well, right. That's the point. The way that you frame this as he's a good guy. You know, he is somebody who has earned a lot of grace because he is just a high character coach. Like he's agreeable. Like he seems like there's nothing about him that comes off that's like overly pompous or negative. So he's earned this extra year. That's essentially what this is. He showed a sign of improvement. He showed a sign of progression, and the offense getting better when Petrino came in. But I just don't think anything about this team to me at this current moment screams that it's going to take an even further step.
They lost all their best players to Ole Miss.
Well, right. This is at the very most for me. I kind of disagree with what you said earlier about 9 wins is their ceiling, and you're right. There it's unexpected sometimes who ends up doing well. They do have a quarterback who could help them accomplish that, but I think it's more realistic that they go 7-6 again. Is 7-6 enough for him to keep his job? And my answer to that is no. I don't think that it is.
Joe, he would be. Let's look at this. He would be 37-37 in 6 seasons.
Yeah, that's not something to be proud of. He's a fine coach. I just don't think he's got the head coaching chops to be a consistently winning SEC one. And they have, as you mentioned, the biggest part about all this is they have shown a willingness to put resources towards sports and to try and produce winning programs. I don't think they're ever going to be a national champion.
What's a hellacious fan base? I mean, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this for just a moment.
Okay.
Arkansas, for what it's worth, they knocked off a Tennessee team with a backup quarterback, and everybody looks at Tennessee. I'm just going to throw this out there. Tennessee still went into Columbus, Ohio, and gave Ohio State, arguably outside of Texas, their best game. Right? Like, I mean, they went into Fayetteville, and let's call it what it is. They got their shit pushed in. Okay? They have the resources and the foundation built around it. Joe, they can look, man. I've seen Arkansas up close when they're running on all cylinders. The Darren McFadden, Peyton Hillis, Matt Joneses of the world. They can knock off anybody. They can be an 8-4, 9-3 every year team. Just don't think it could be that way under Sam Pittman, and I do think that they got to make a move. If you want to be serious, if you want to be 7-6 and go to the Pop-Tart Bowl every year, go ahead and be.
Well, I mean, that would be an accomplishment if they go to the Pop-Tart Bowl. The Pop-Tart Bowl is a highly coveted bowl now these days, Blake.
I got to be honest. If we don't make the playoff, like my team, or just me and you in general, I want to go to the Pop-Tart Bowl. It seems like the best college atmosphere in the country.
I don't disagree with that. I think it'd be a blast.